The ice moon of Valtara 9 was a frozen hell, but Han Jiwoo barely noticed the cold anymore. She lay perfectly still on the ridge, her rifle scope trained on the compound below. She had been in this position for 6 hours, waiting for her target to appear. Patience was her greatest weapon, more valuable than any gun or blade. The man she was hunting had escaped justice for 20 years. He was responsible for the deaths of thousands, maybe more. The Galactic Concordance Council wanted him dead, and Jiwoo never failed to deliver. In 30 years, she had completed 847 contracts. Every single one ended the same way. The target died and she collected her payment. People across 7 star systems knew her name, though most had never seen her face. They called her the shadow that never misses. Some thought she was a myth, a story told to scare criminals into hiding. But the smart ones knew better. When Jiwoo accepted a contract, the target was already dead. They just didn't know it yet. Movement caught her eye. Her target stepped out onto the balcony, exactly as her intelligence predicted. He thought he was safe here, hidden on this remote moon. He was wrong. Jiwoo's finger squeezed the trigger. The rifle made almost no sound. 3 seconds later, the man fell. Contract complete. She packed her equipment with practiced efficiency and made her way back to her ship. The local authorities would find the body in the morning. By then, she would be halfway across the sector. The council would wire the payment to her account, and she would wait for the next assignment. Her ship lifted off from Valtara 9 as the sun rose over the frozen landscape. Jiwoo sat in the pilot's seat, her face showing no emotion. She never celebrated her kills. There was no joy in this work, but there was purpose. Every target she eliminated was someone who deserved it, someone the regular authorities couldn't catch. She was justice for people who had none. The communication panel blinked. An incoming message from the council. That was unusual. They normally waited a few days between assignments, giving her time to rest. Jiwoo activated the screen. A woman's face appeared. Yoon Hana had been Jiwoo's handler for 15 years. She was efficient, professional, and never wasted time with small talk. "Congratulations on Valtara 9, Hana said. "The council is pleased. What's the next job?" Jiwoo asked. Hana's expression became serious. "This one is different. High priority. The target is a human male, age 45. His name is Kang Minho. He's a scientist who worked for the council's research division." Jiwoo's eyebrows raised slightly. The council rarely targeted their own people. "What did he do?" "He stole classified technology, quantum medical devices that took decades to develop. He's selling them to hostile alien factions. We have proof that he's planning to hand over the technology to groups that want to destroy human colonies." Hana's voice was cold. "This man is a traitor to humanity itself." The screen changed to show a photograph. Jiwoo studied the face carefully. Kang Minho had kind eyes and a gentle smile. He looked more like a teacher than a traitor. But Jiwoo had learned long ago that appearances meant nothing. Some of the worst monsters she had hunted looked like saints. "The reward is 50 million credits, Hana continued. "That's 10 times your normal rate. The council wants him eliminated quickly and quietly. No trial, no publicity. He knows too much about sensitive projects. 50 million credits. That was more money than Jiwoo had earned in the last 5 years combined. It was enough to retire if she wanted to. But retirement had never interested her. This work was all she had. "Send me everything you have on him," Jiwoo said, already done. "The files are in your system. His last known location is Nexus Prime. That was 3 days ago. He's careful, changes locations frequently. But you've tracked harder targets than this." The screen went dark. Jiwoo sat alone in the cockpit, watching the stars stream past. Something about this assignment felt wrong, but she couldn't identify what. The evidence was clear. The reward was massive. The target was a traitor. Everything made sense, yet doubt whispered in the back of her mind. She pulled up the files Hana had sent. Kang Minho's entire life was documented here. Born on Earth, showed exceptional intelligence from a young age. Graduated top of his class from the Advanced Science Institute. Spent years developing medical technology that saved lives across the galaxy. Then 6 months ago, he vanished with the most valuable research the council had ever produced. Jiwoo read through witness statements, financial records, and surveillance footage. All of it pointed to guilt. Minho had definitely stolen the technology. There was no question about that, but why? The files showed he had never been interested in money. He had donated most of his salary to refugee organizations. He lived simply, owned almost nothing, People didn't change their entire personality overnight. Something was missing from this picture. Jiwoo made a mental note to investigate further once she found him. The journey to Nexus Prime took 4 days. Jiwoo used the time to study every detail about her target. She learned his habits, his patterns, his likely hiding places. She reviewed the layout of Nexus Prime, identifying the best positions for observation and elimination. Nexus Prime was a massive trading hub, home to millions of beings from hundreds of different species. It was the perfect place to disappear. But Jiwoo had contacts everywhere, information brokers who owed her favors. Within 12 hours of landing, she had a location. Minho was hiding in the lower commercial district, in a building that housed medical clinics for refugees. Of course he was. Even while running for his life, he was helping people. That didn't make him innocent, Jiwoo reminded herself. Good people could do terrible things for reasons they thought were justified. She found a vantage point on a building across the street. It gave her a clear view of the clinic entrance. She set up her equipment and settled in to wait. This was what she did best. Wait and watch. 3 hours later, a man emerged from the clinic. Jiwoo's breath caught in her throat. She knew that face. Not from the files. From somewhere else. Somewhere in her past. Her finger moved to the trigger, but she couldn't squeeze it. Her hands were shaking. That had never happened before. Not in 30 years. Through the scope, she studied his face more carefully. Recognition hit her like a physical blow. This wasn't just any target. This was someone she knew, someone from a long time ago, someone she thought she would never see again. The man who saved her life 20 years ago. The man she had spent 3 days with on Haven's Rest. The man she had left without saying goodbye because she believed her dangerous life couldn't include connections or feelings. His name hadn't been Kang Minho back then, or maybe she had never asked his full name. She had called him by his first name only, and he had known her as Sora, the alias she used on that mission. Jiwoo lowered the rifle. Her perfect record was about to break one way or another, because the man in her sights wasn't just a target. He was the only person in the galaxy she had ever cared about, and she had no idea what to do next. Jiwoo spent 3 days watching Kang Minho from a distance. She told herself she was gathering information, learning his patterns, waiting for the perfect moment. But the truth was simpler and more painful. She couldn't pull the trigger. Every morning, Minho left the small apartment above the clinic at exactly 7 o'clock. He worked until late evening, treating refugees who couldn't afford proper medical care. Jiwoo watched him set broken bones, distribute medicine, and comfort crying children. This wasn't the behavior of a trader selling weapons to terrorists. At night, alone in her hotel room, memories returned. Memories she had buried 20 years ago because they were too painful to keep. Haven's Rest had been a peaceful colony world until the war came. Local militants seized control and the population suffered. Jiwoo had been sent to eliminate a weapons dealer who was supplying the militants. It should have been a simple job, but something went wrong. Her information was bad. The dealer had twice as many guards as expected. Jiwoo completed the mission, but she was badly injured during her escape. She made it to the refugee district before collapsing in an alley. She woke up in a small medical tent. A young man was cleaning the wound on her shoulder. He had gentle hands and a worried expression. "You're lucky," he said. "A few centimeters to the left and the bullet would have hit your heart." Jiwoo tried to sit up, but pain stopped her. "Where am I?" "Safe for now. The militants patrol this area, but they usually ignore the medical tents. I'm Minho. I'm a doctor with the Relief Coalition." She studied his face, looking for deception. She found only genuine concern. "Why did you help me?" He looked surprised by the question. "Because you were hurt. Why else?" For 3 days, Jiwoo hid in that medical tent while her wound healed. Minho checked on her regularly between treating other patients. He never asked what she did or why she was injured. He simply helped. They talked during the long hours. Minho told her about his work, how he had joined the Relief Coalition to help people in war zones. "I believe every life has value," he said. "It doesn't matter which side someone is on. When they're hurt, they need help." Jiwoo found his idealism both beautiful and foolish. "Some people don't deserve help," she said. "Some people only understand violence. Maybe. But I'm not wise enough to decide who deserves to live or die. So I help everyone I can, and hope it makes a difference." On the second night, militants attacked the medical camp. Bombs exploded nearby. Patients screamed. Minho stayed calm, organizing evacuations and protecting the wounded. Jiwoo watched him risk his life again and again to save people he didn't even know. Something shifted inside her that night. She had spent years hunting monsters and seeing the worst of humanity. Minho reminded her that good people still existed. People who chose kindness over violence, even when violence would be easier. On the third day, her contact arrived with an extraction ship. It was time to leave. Minho helped her walk to the edge of the camp. "Will you be okay?" he asked. Jiwoo nodded. She should have just walked away. Instead, she turned back. "Thank you. For everything," he smiled. "Take care of yourself, Sora." That was the name she had given him. An alias like all the names she used. She almost told him the truth then. Almost revealed who she really was. But what could she offer him? A life on the run, always in danger, never staying anywhere long enough to build a home. So she left without another word. She told herself it was better this way. Safer for him. She would forget about the kind doctor and continue her work. But she never forgot. Late at night, during the empty hours between missions, she thought about those 3 days. She kept a photograph she had taken of the medical camp, with Minho visible in the background. It was foolish and sentimental, but she couldn't bring herself to delete it. Now, 20 years later, that same man was in her scope. Older, but still recognizable. Still helping refugees. Still risking everything to save people the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. The evidence said he was a traitor. Her instincts said something else entirely. On the 4th day, Jiwoo made a decision that went against every rule she had followed for 30 years. She would confront Minho directly. She would hear his side of the story before deciding whether to kill him. She waited until evening when the clinic closed. Minho walked through the quiet streets toward his apartment. Jiwoo followed at a distance, staying in the shadows. A public garden sat halfway between the clinic and his home. Few people used it this late. Jiwoo moved ahead and waited on a bench near the path. Minho appeared a few minutes later. He walked slowly, looking tired. Jiwoo stood up, stepping into his path. He stopped, startled. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then recognition flashed across his face. Impossible recognition because she looked nothing like she had 20 years ago. Different hair, different clothes, older face, but something in her eyes must have remained the same. Minho's expression changed from fear to wonder. He whispered a single word barely audible. "Sora." Jiwoo's hand moved to the gun hidden under her jacket. "Not drawing it, just ready. My name isn't Sora, it never was." "I know. I figured that out eventually." He smiled sadly. "You disappeared so completely I knew you must have been someone who needed to hide. I tried to find you anyway. Spent years hoping I'd see you again. You shouldn't have looked for me. Probably not. But I couldn't help it." He took a careful step closer. "You're here to kill me, aren't you? The council sent you. No point denying it." "Yes," he nodded, slowly accepting it. "Will you at least let me explain before you do it?" "Explain what?" "How you stole technology and sold it to terrorists. Is that what they told you?" Minho's voice was bitter. "I suppose that's easier than admitting the truth." "Which is?" "That I wouldn't help them commit genocide. And when I tried to stop them, they decided I had to die." He met her eyes. "The technology I stole? It's a cure for the Vexian plague. Do you know what that is?" Jiwoo did. The plague was killing millions across the outer colonies, primarily affecting non-human species. The council is working on a cure. The council created the cure 2 years ago. I invented it. But they won't release it. Minho's hands clenched into fists. They want to modify it first. Turn it into a weapon. A way to target specific genetic markers. They're planning to use it to eliminate alien populations they consider problematic. That's insane. Why would they do that? Because some people in the council believe humanity should dominate the galaxy. They see other species as threats or obstacles. The plague was convenient. It was already killing aliens. Why not make it worse? Jiwoo wanted to call him a liar. But something in his voice rang true. And it explained things that had bothered her about this mission. The rushed timeline, the excessive secrecy, the enormous reward for what should have been a simple execution. "You have proof of this?" she asked. "Hidden, yes. Encrypted files showing their communications, their plans. I can show you everything. But first you need to decide something." Minho looked at her steadily. "Are you going to kill me because someone gave you orders? Or are you going to find out the truth first?" Before Jiwoo could answer, footsteps echoed from the street. Multiple people moving fast. Jiwoo's combat instinct screamed a warning. "Run," she said. Minho didn't question it. They ran together as armed figures emerged from the darkness behind them. Council security forces wearing tactical armor and carrying military-grade weapons. Someone had been watching. Someone knew Jiwoo had made contact instead of taking the shot, and now they were both marked for death. Gunfire erupted behind them. Jiwoo grabbed Minho's arm and pulled him into a narrow alley. Bullets sparked off the walls where they had been standing seconds before. The Council forces were using lethal ammunition. No warnings, no attempts to capture. They wanted both of them dead. "This way," Minho gasped. He led her through a maze of back streets and maintenance corridors. He knew this district well, which made sense. He had been hiding here for weeks. They emerged in the industrial section where massive cargo containers were stacked like metal mountains. Minho ducked behind one of them and Jiwoo followed. For a moment, they just breathed hard, listening for pursuit. "Your laboratory," Jiwoo said. "Where is it?" "Not far. 10 minutes if we're careful. Take me there. Show me your proof." They moved through the shadows, avoiding the main streets. Jiwoo's training made her aware of every camera, every possible ambush point. Behind them, she heard the security forces spreading out, searching. Minho's laboratory was hidden in the basement of an abandoned factory. The entrance was concealed behind false walls and required 3 different security codes. Inside, the space was cramped but functional. Medical equipment covered every surface. Computer screens displayed complex formulas and genetic sequences. "Lock the door," Jiwoo ordered. While Minho secured the entrance, she scanned the room for weapons and escape routes. Old habits. Minho moved to one of the computers and began typing rapidly. "I'm bringing up the files. Everything I have on the Council's project." Jiwoo stood behind him, watching the screen. Documents appeared. Communications between high-ranking Council members. Research reports marked with the highest security classifications. Video recordings of closed meetings. She read carefully, her expression growing darker with each page. The evidence was overwhelming. The Council had developed a cure for the Vexian plague exactly as Minho claimed, but instead of releasing it, they had begun modifying it into a biological weapon. The weapon would target specific genetic markers common in non-human species. It could be adjusted to kill specific alien races while leaving humans untouched. The Council's internal communications discussed which populations to eliminate first. Millions would die. Why? Jiwoo whispered. Why would they do this? Fear and greed, Minho said quietly. Some Council members believe humanity is in competition with other species for resources and territory. They think if we eliminate our rivals now, while we have the technological advantage, humans will dominate the galaxy for generations. This is genocide, yes. And when I discovered what they were planning, I couldn't stay silent. Minho's voice shook with anger. I confronted my supervisor, told him I wouldn't be part of this. He smiled and told me I didn't have a choice, that I was too valuable to the project. So you ran. So I ran, and I took the original cure with me, the version that actually saves lives instead of ending them. He opened a secure cabinet and carefully removed a small silver case. Inside were vials of pale blue liquid. This is it. The cure in its pure form. I've been distributing it to refugee medical centers, trying to save as many people as possible before the Council finds me. Jiwoo stared at the vials. The hostile alien factions you supposedly sold technology to? Refugee groups desperate to save their people. The Council calls anyone who opposes their policies a terrorist. Minho closed the case gently. I never sold anything. I gave the cure away for free. Everything made sense now. The rushed mission. The lack of public trial. The Council couldn't risk this information becoming public. They needed Minho dead quickly and quietly. They made me their executioner, Jiwoo said. The realization was bitter. How many others? How many people did I kill who were actually trying to do the right thing? Minho turned to face her. You couldn't have known. I should have questioned more. Investigated more. Instead, I just followed orders. She felt sick. 30 years of absolute certainty, and now it was all crumbling. I thought I was justice, but I was just a weapon pointed at whoever they wanted dead. You're not that weapon anymore. Minho stepped closer. You're here. You're asking questions. That's what matters. Before Jiwoo could respond, an explosion rocked the building. The security forces had found them. Back exit, Minho said urgently. He grabbed the case with the cure and ran toward the rear of the laboratory. Jiwoo drew her gun and followed. Behind them, she heard the main door being blown off its hinges. Heavy footsteps echoed down the stairs. The back exit led to the city's maintenance tunnels. Minho moved confidently through the darkness, clearly familiar with this escape route. Jiwoo covered their rear, listening for pursuit. They emerged in a different district, blocks away from the laboratory. Rain was falling, which helped hide them in the crowds of people hurrying to get inside. Minho led her to a small apartment building and up 3 flights of stairs. Safe house, he explained, unlocking a plain door. Nobody knows about this one. Not even my assistant. The apartment was small and simply furnished. Minho set the cure case on a table and collapsed into a chair, his hands shaking from adrenaline. Jiwoo locked the door and checked the windows. Good sight lines, multiple exits. It would do for now. She turned to find Minho watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. 20 years, he said. I looked for you for 20 years. And now you show up to kill me. I'm not going to kill you. Then what are you going to do? Good question. Jiwoo sat down across from him, suddenly exhausted. I don't know. Everything I believed was a lie. Everyone I trusted was using me. I don't even know who I am anymore. You're Sora, Minho said softly. The woman who showed compassion even when she was trying to be cold. The woman who pretended she didn't care about anything, but I saw her give her food to hungry children when she thought no one was looking. That wasn't real. That was just a cover identity. Maybe. Or maybe that was the real you and everything after was the disguise. He reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. The woman I met on Haven's Rest was brave and kind. She saved my life during that attack, even though she was injured. I never forgot her. Jiwoo looked at his hand so close to hers. She could count on one hand the number of times someone had touched her gently in the past 20 years. Her life had been violence and solitude for so long she had forgotten what it felt like to connect with another person. I kept a photograph, she admitted. From Haven's Rest. It was stupid and dangerous, but I couldn't delete it. Minho smiled. I kept your bandage, the one I wrapped your shoulder with. I told myself it was a reminder to always help people, even strangers. But really I kept it because it was the only thing I had from you. Outside, sirens wailed. The council forces were searching the district. They were running out of time. We need a plan, Jiwoo said, forcing herself back to practical matters. The council won't stop hunting us. And you can't distribute the cure if you're dead. There's a refugee coalition, Minho said. Independent groups working to help people the council has abandoned. They've offered me protection, but I need to get to their base on Refuge Point. That's 3 star systems away. Then we go to Refuge Point. The decision felt right. For the first time in years, Jiwoo was choosing her own path instead of following orders. They'll send more hunters after us. People like you. People like I was, Jiwoo corrected. And I know how hunters think. I can keep us ahead of them. Minho looked at her for a long moment. Why are you doing this? You could walk away. Tell the council I escaped. Collect part of your payment because you were right. 20 years ago and now, some people are worth protecting. She finally reached out and took his hand. I spent 3 decades being a weapon. Maybe it's time to be something else. His fingers closed around hers, warm and solid. Thank you. They sat together in the quiet apartment while rain fell outside. Somewhere in the city, council forces were hunting them. Somewhere in the galaxy, millions of people were dying from a plague that could be cured. And somewhere in the council's headquarters, powerful people were planning genocide. But in this moment, Jiwoo wasn't alone anymore. And neither was Minho. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The announcement came at dawn. Jiwoo woke to the sound of emergency broadcasts blaring from every screen in the city. Her face appeared on the news along with Minho's. The council declared them both enemies of humanity, dangerous terrorists who had stolen classified military technology. They're offering 100 million credits for our capture, Minho said quietly. He stood by the window watching the streets fill with security patrols. Dead or alive? Jiwoo joined him, studying the forces below. They're scared. That's good. Scared people make mistakes. They've frozen all your accounts. Your ship has been impounded. Every contact you have will be monitored. Minho looked at her. You've lost everything because of me. I lost nothing that mattered. She meant it. The money, the reputation, the perfect record. All of it felt meaningless now. We need to move. Staying in one place too long is suicide. They left the apartment separately, blending into the morning crowds. Jiwoo had changed her appearance. Different hair color, colored contact lenses, clothing that made her look like a factory worker heading to shift. Minho wore similar disguises. They met at a transport station on the edge of the city. Minho's contact was waiting there, a nervous young man who barely looked old enough to drive, but his ship was fast and unregistered, which was all that mattered. Refugee Coalition sent me, the pilot said. Name's Lee Woojin. I'm supposed to get you to Refuge Point, but it won't be easy. Council has blockades on all major routes. Then we take the minor routes, Jiwoo said, through the border systems. Woojin nodded. That's the plan. Gonna take longer, and the border systems are dangerous. Pirates, raiders, no law enforcement. Better than Council execution squads. They lifted off from Nexus Prime just ahead of a security sweep. Jiwoo watched the planet shrink behind them, knowing she could never return. For 30 years, she had moved freely through the galaxy. Now she was hunted in every system. The journey to Refuge Point took 2 weeks, moving from one hidden refueling station to another. Along the way, they picked up news from across the galaxy. The Council's propaganda campaign was intense. They painted Minho as a mad scientist planning to release a biological weapon. They called Jiwoo his accomplice, a former hero corrupted by money. They're good at this, Minho said bitterly, making us the villains while they plan genocide. But not everyone believed the official story. Some independent journalists were asking questions. Why was there no trial? Why the rush to kill rather than capture? What exactly had Minho stolen? On the 7th day, they reached the desert world of Arrakis 7 for refueling. Woojin insisted it was safe. He had contacts there who owed him favors. He was wrong. They were ambushed at the refueling station by a team of bounty hunters. 4 of them, all heavily armed. Jiwoo recognized their leader immediately. Lim Heejin had been her student once, a young hunter she had trained 5 years ago. Don't make this hard, Heejin called out. Come quietly, and maybe you live long enough for a trial. You know that's not true, Jiwoo replied. She was positioned behind a cargo container, gun drawn. Minho and Woojin were behind her, unarmed. The Council says you've gone rogue, that you're protecting a terrorist. The Council is lying. About everything. But you won't believe me, will you? Heejin hesitated. That moment of doubt was all Jiwoo needed. She moved fast, using every trick she had taught the younger hunter against her. The fight was brief and brutal. Jiwoo didn't want to kill her former student, but she couldn't afford to be captured either. She aimed for Heejin's leg, dropping her with a non-lethal shot. The other hunters scattered, unwilling to face someone of Jiwoo's reputation in direct combat. I'm sorry, Jiwoo whispered, as she ran past Heejin's fallen form. You're fighting for the wrong side. They escaped Arrakis 7 with Council forces minutes behind them. Woojin pushed his ship to maximum speed, heading for the border territories. That was too close, Minho said. He was treating a minor burn on Woojin's arm from the firefight. How many more hunters will they send? All of them, Jiwoo said grimly. I was the best, but I wasn't the only one. There are dozens of hunters like me, maybe hundreds, and they all want that 100 million credit reward. Can we outrun them? For a while. But we need allies. We can't fight the entire Council alone. That night, while Woojin piloted and Minho slept, Jiwoo sat alone in the cargo hold. She was exhausted physically and emotionally. Her entire life had been built on the certainty that she was doing the right thing. Now that certainty was gone, replaced by doubt and guilt. How many innocent people had she killed? How many were like Minho, trying to stop the Council's crimes? The thought made her sick. Minho woke and found her there, staring at nothing. He sat beside her without speaking. Sometimes silence was better than words. I trained Heejin, Jiwoo finally said. Taught her everything I knew. And today I shot her. You didn't kill her. I could have, should have, tactically. She'll hunt me again. But you didn't kill her. That means something. Jiwoo looked at him. Does it? I've killed so many people. What difference does one act of mercy make? All the difference in the world. Minho took her hand. You're not who they made you. You're who you choose to be. I don't know how to be anything else. Fighting is all I know. Then fight for something that matters. Help me save lives instead of ending them. The idea was both terrifying and tempting. Could she really change? Could 30 years of violence be balanced by helping instead of hurting? They reached Refuge Point 3 days later. It was an asteroid station, hidden in a debris field, home to thousands of refugees from dozens of worlds. The refugee coalition maintained it as a safe haven for people fleeing council persecution. Ambassador Thelkor met them at the docking bay. He was a Ravastian, a tall reptilian species with scales that shimmered blue and green. "Dr. Kang," he said formally, "we are honored to shelter you. Your cure has saved thousands of my people. This is Han Jiwoo," Minho introduced her. "She's helping me." Thelkor's large eyes studied her carefully. "We know who she is. The famous hunter. Many here have reason to fear her." "I'm not hunting anyone anymore," Jiwoo said. "I'm done working for the council." "Good, because we need help. The council is planning something terrible and time is running out." They followed Thelkor to a command center deep in the station. Other coalition leaders were gathered there, humans and aliens working together. One of them, a severe-looking woman, stepped forward. "Dr. Choi Sujin," she introduced herself. "I used to work for the council's research division. Like Dr. Kang, I left when I learned what they were really doing." She activated a holographic display. It showed a planet covered in blue oceans and green continents. Elysium 4, a colony world, population 12 million. Mostly refugees. The council has declared it a test site. A test site for what? Jiwoo asked, though she already feared the answer. Their biological weapon. They plan to release a modified version of the plague there. Within weeks, every non-human on the planet will be dead. The council will claim it was a natural outbreak, proof that aliens are dangerous disease carriers. Minho grabbed the edge of the table, his face pale. 12 million people. They're going to murder 12 million people just to test their weapon. And to justify wider deployment, Sujin said. Once Elysium 4 falls, they'll have their excuse to quarantine and eliminate other alien populations. It's genocide on a scale we've never seen. When? Jiwoo demanded. 2 weeks, maybe less. The weapon is already being prepared. Silence filled the command center. The scope of the council's evil was almost impossible to comprehend. But Jiwoo had learned one thing in her 30 years of hunting. Evil only succeeded when good people did nothing. "Then we stop them," she said. "We get proof of what they're planning and broadcast it to the entire galaxy." "That's suicide," one of the coalition leaders objected. "The council's headquarters is on Earth, the most heavily defended planet in human space." "I know. I've been there before." Jiwoo looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. "But we don't have a choice. If we don't stop this, millions die. And it won't stop at Elysium 4. This is just the beginning." Minho stood beside her, his hand finding hers. "I'm with you. Whatever it takes." Thelkor clicked his teeth together, a Ravastian gesture of respect. "Then we plan. The coalition will provide whatever resources you need." That night, Jiwoo stood on an observation deck looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there on Elysium 4, millions of people were going about their lives unaware that death was coming for them. And on Earth, powerful people were planning genocide, confident that no one could stop them. They were wrong. Jiwoo had been their perfect weapon for 30 years. Now she would be their worst nightmare. Planning an attack on Earth's council headquarters was insane. Everyone in the room agreed on that point, but they also agreed that doing nothing was worse. "We need specialists," Jiwoo said, studying the headquarters layout on the holographic display. "The security is too advanced for a simple assault. We need hackers, infiltration experts, people who know the building's weaknesses." "I know someone," Woojin offered. "Nam Jae-ho, best hacker in 3 sectors. He's been wanted by the council for years. Can we trust him? He hates the council more than anyone I know. They killed his family during a protest crackdown. He's been exposing their secrets ever since. Find him. Bring him here." Over the next week, they assembled a team. Each person brought unique skills, and each had personal reasons for opposing the council. Nam Jae-ho arrived first. He was younger than Jiwoo expected, barely 30, with nervous energy and suspicious eyes. He set up his equipment in a corner and immediately began hacking into council communication networks. "They're talking about you constantly," he said, fingers flying across multiple keyboards. "You're famous. The hunter who turned traitor. Some people think you're a hero. Others want you dead. What do you think?" Jiwoo asked. Jae-ho looked up, meeting her eyes directly. "I think anyone who opposes the council is on the right side. What do you need me to do?" "Break into their security system. Create blind spots. Make it possible for us to get inside without being detected. That's impossible." "You just said I was famous for doing impossible things." Jae-ho smiled slightly. "Fair point. I'll need time and a lot of processing power. You have both. Park Dae-hyun, Minho's assistant, revealed himself to be more than a simple medical aide. He had served in military special operations before retiring to humanitarian work. Dr. Kang saved my life, Dae-hyun explained. I was injured in combat, facing permanent disability. His experimental treatment restored my mobility. I owe him everything. Can you still fight? Ji-woo asked. In response, Dae-hyun demonstrated hand-to-hand combat skills that impressed even her. I'm not as fast as I used to be, he admitted. But I can still pull a trigger and cover your back. That's all I need. Ambassador Thelkor provided 4 Rivastian commandos, elite soldiers who owed Minho a life debt. Their leader was Thelkor's daughter, Shreka, a warrior whose scales bore the scars of many battles. Our people are dying from the plague, she said, her voice like gravel. Dr. Kang's cure saved my daughter when human doctors said nothing could be done. I will fight beside him until my last breath. Dr. Kang Yoonji joined them next. She was a biologist who had worked at the council headquarters before defecting. Her knowledge of the facility layout would be crucial. The bioweapons lab is in the secure basement levels, she explained, pointing to the holographic display. Access requires 3 different security clearances, but there are maintenance tunnels that bypass some of the checkpoints. Why did you leave? Minho asked. Yoonji's expression hardened. I discovered what they were really developing. When I objected, they threatened my family. So I took my children and ran. I've been helping the coalition ever since. The last addition to the team was unexpected. Lee Woojin, their pilot, insisted on being included in the ground assault. My entire family died in a council bombing, he said quietly. They called it a terrorist hideout, but it was just a neighborhood. My parents, my siblings, my grandparents, all gone. I've been waiting years for a chance to strike back. Ji-woo looked at the assembled team. It was small, maybe too small for what they were attempting, but each person was committed, and commitment mattered more than numbers. Here's what we know, she began, activating the mission display. The Council plans to deploy their bioweapon against Elysium 4 in 8 days. The weapon is being prepared at their headquarters on Earth. We need to do 3 things. Steal proof of their plans, take the weapon so it can't be used, and broadcast everything to the galaxy. Simultaneously, Jae-ho added, if we broadcast too early, they'll lock down everything. Too late, and they'll deploy the weapon anyway. Exactly. The timing has to be perfect. They spent 3 days planning every detail. Jae-ho worked constantly, mapping council security protocols and finding weaknesses. Yoonji provided detailed information about guard rotations and access codes. Shreka and her commandos practiced synchronized assault tactics. Ji-woo trained with each team member, assessing their skills and building coordination. She was impressed by their dedication. These weren't professional soldiers. They were ordinary people pushed to extraordinary actions by the Council's cruelty. During a break in planning, Minho found Ji-woo on the observation deck. She stood alone staring out at the stars. Having doubts? He asked. Always. Doubts keep you alive. She looked at him. This plan is desperate. The odds of success are maybe 30%. The odds of survival are worse. I know. You could stay here. Let me and the soldiers handle the assault. Continue distributing the cure from safety. Minho shook his head. This is my responsibility. I invented that technology. If they've turned it into a weapon, I need to be there to stop it. You could die. So could you. But we're doing it anyway because it's right. He moved closer, taking her hand. 20 years ago, we spent 3 days together. It wasn't enough. I want more time with you, Ji-woo. Years if we're lucky. But if we only get a few more days, I want to spend them fighting for something that matters. She pulled him close, resting her head against his shoulder. I wasted so much time. Convinced myself that I couldn't have connections or feelings. That my work was too important. You were doing what you thought was right. I was being a coward, hiding behind duty instead of facing what I really wanted. She looked up at him. I wanted you, from the moment we met, but I was too scared to admit it. I'm here now. We both are. They kissed then, gently at first, then with the desperation of people who knew they might not survive the week. When they finally pulled apart, Ji-woo felt something she hadn't experienced in decades. Hope. After this is over, Minho said softly, if we survive, what do you want? A quiet life. Somewhere peaceful. Maybe a small house by the ocean, she smiled. I've spent 30 years hunting people. I think I'd like to help them instead. Work with you, distributing medical care to people who need it. That sounds perfect. The night before their departure, the entire team gathered for a final meal. It was strange, sharing food and conversation with people she barely knew. For so long, Jiwoo had worked alone. She had forgotten what it felt like to be part of something larger than herself. Shreka stood, raising her glass. Tomorrow we face death. Maybe we win, maybe we lose. But tonight we are united, human and Ravastian, fighting together for justice. That alone is victory. They drank together, and for a moment Jiwoo allowed herself to believe they might actually succeed. Later, alone in their quarters, Minho gave Jiwoo a gift. It was a simple silver bracelet, elegant but plain. "I've carried this for 20 years, he explained. "I bought it on Haven's Rest, planning to give it to you. But you disappeared before I could. I kept it anyway, hoping I might see you again." Jiwoo took the bracelet, her hands trembling slightly. "You carried this for 2 decades? I told you. I never forgot you." She put it on, feeling the weight of his devotion. "I promise we'll survive this. We'll get our quiet life by the ocean. I'll hold you to that promise." They spent their last night together, holding each other close, trying not to think about the morning, about the mission that could end in their deaths, about the millions of lives depending on their success. Dawn came too quickly. The team assembled at the docking bay where Woojin's ship waited. Everyone was armed and equipped. Faces were tense but determined. Jiwoo did a final check of her weapons. Minho stood beside her, carrying the data extraction devices that would copy the Council's files. "Ready?" she asked. "No, but let's do it anyway." They boarded the ship. As it lifted off from Refuge Point, Jiwoo watched the asteroid station shrink behind them. Somewhere on that station, refugees were going about their lives, hoping for better futures. On Elysium 4, millions more waited unknowingly for either salvation or death. Everything depended on what happened in the next 48 hours. Woojin activated the FTL drive, and the stars stretched into lines. They were heading for Earth, toward the heart of Council power, toward either their greatest victory or their final stand. Jiwoo touched the silver bracelet on her wrist and allowed herself one last moment of hope. Earth looked peaceful from orbit, blue and green and beautiful. Jiwoo had been here dozens of times, always arriving as a hero returning from successful missions. Now she was a criminal, sneaking past security with false credentials and a stolen transport code. Jaeho's hacking was flawless. Their ship registered as a medical supply transport, cleared for landing at a commercial spaceport near New Geneva. Council security scanned them 3 times but found nothing suspicious. Phase 1 complete, Jaeho whispered over their communication network. Now comes the hard part. They split into 3 teams as planned. Jiwoo, Minho, and Daehyun formed the main infiltration unit, heading for the central data archive. Jaeho and Yoonji would access the computer systems and laboratory. Shreka's Ravastian commandos would secure their escape route and handle perimeter security. The Council headquarters rose above New Geneva like a silver mountain. Jiwoo had walked through those doors 100 times. She knew every corridor, every security checkpoint, every blind spot in the camera coverage. That knowledge would either save them or get them killed. They entered through a maintenance entrance using access codes Yoonji had provided. The first 2 levels went smoothly. Jaeho looped camera feeds, making them invisible to security. They moved quietly, avoiding patrols, reaching the secure elevator shaft that led to the archive levels. "So far so good," Daehyun muttered. Jiwoo didn't relax. In her experience, missions that started well often ended badly. The archive level was the heart of the headquarters, storing every classified document and communication. Minho connected his extraction device to the main terminal and began downloading files. Terabytes of data flowed into his storage unit, proof of the bioweapon program, targeting coordinates for Elysium 4, communications between Council members planning genocide. While Minho worked, Jiwoo explored the surrounding offices. She accessed a terminal and began searching through files, looking for anything useful. What she found made her blood run cold. Project Nightfall, a secret program within the Council to eliminate dissent. Not just from aliens, but from humans, too. Anyone who opposed the Council's vision faced eventual removal. The list of targets was horrifying. Journalists, politicians, scientists, military officers. People who asked too many questions or challenged Council authority. Her own name was on the list. She had always been marked for elimination, The Council had used her for 30 years, pointing her at their enemies like a loaded gun. Once she outlived her usefulness, they would have quietly killed her. How many others had already died this way? How many fellow hunters had been retired when they became inconvenient? Jiwoo. Minho's voice pulled her back. Download is at 70%. Another 10 minutes. Too long. Jiwoo's instinct screamed warning. Something felt wrong. We need to speed this up, she said. Before Minho could respond, alarms blared throughout the building. Red lights flashed. Steel doors slammed shut, sealing the archive level. We've been compromised, Jaeho's panicked voice came through their comms. Multiple security teams converging on your position. How? Daehyun demanded. We were invisible. The answer came in the form of holographic projectors activating around them. A familiar face appeared, life-sized and smiling coldly. Yoon Hana, Jiwoo's handler for 15 years. Hello, Jiwoo, Hana said. I knew you'd come here. You're predictable when you think you're being clever. You were expecting us. Of course. The moment you failed to kill Dr. Kang, I knew you'd flip. The Council is tired of dealing with you both. So we let you come to us, let you walk right into the headquarters, and now you're trapped. Jiwoo heard footsteps in the corridors outside. Lots of them. Why tell me this? Why not just kill us? Because I wanted you to know the truth before you die. Hana's smile widened. Your perfect record. I created it. For 30 years, I fed you targets, but not the criminals you thought. Political opponents, whistleblowers, scientists who knew too much about our programs. You were my executioner, eliminating problems the Council couldn't handle publicly. The words hit like physical blows. 30 years. 847 kills. How many had been innocent? You're lying. Am I? Search your feelings, Jiwoo. You've had doubts for years. Missions that felt wrong. Targets who seemed too cooperative, too surprised. You ignored those doubts because believing you were right was easier than facing the truth. Minho grabbed Jiwoo's arm, pulling her attention back. The download is only at 80%. We need more time, but time had run out. The doors exploded inward. Council security forces poured in, heavily armed and wearing tactical armor. They were led by Cho Tae-jin, an enforcer known for his brutality. Surrender or die, he called out. Your choice, Jiwoo raised her weapons. We're not surrendering. The firefight was immediate and vicious. Jiwoo, Minho, and Daehyun took cover behind computer terminals. Bullets shredded equipment around them. Jiwoo returned fire with precision, dropping 3 soldiers in quick succession. Daehyun fought beside her, his military training evident in every movement. Shreka, we need extraction now, Jiwoo shouted into her comm. Fighting our way to you. Shreka's voice crackled back. Heavy resistance. 3 minutes. 3 minutes might as well be an eternity. More security forces arrived, surrounding their position. Jiwoo's ammunition was running low. Beside her, Daehyun took a bullet to the shoulder and went down hard. I'm okay, he gasped. Keep fighting, but he wasn't okay. Blood was spreading across his armor. Minho was still at the terminal, desperately trying to complete the download. 90%. Just a little more. Yoonji's voice came through the comms, strained and frightened. The laboratory is locked down. I can't reach the bioweapon. The whole level is sealed. The mission was falling apart. They were trapped, outnumbered, and running out of options. Then Yoonji said something that changed everything. I can overload the power grid. Create an explosion big enough to breach the security doors. But I'd need to stay here to do it manually. No, Minho said immediately. We're not sacrificing anyone. We don't have a choice. Get the data. Expose them. That's what matters. Yoonji's voice was calm, accepting. I have children, Dr. Kang. Children living free because of the coalition. This is how I keep them safe. Before anyone could argue, the lights flickered. Emergency power activated. Through the chaos, Jiwoo heard a distant explosion. She did it, Jaeho said quietly. She's gone. Jiwoo felt a surge of grief and rage. Another death. Another person sacrificed because of the Council's evil. The explosion had breached security doors throughout the level. Shreka and her commandos burst through, firing at Council forces. They had minutes before reinforcements arrived. Download complete, Minho shouted, grabbing his storage device. But the laboratory was still sealed. The bioweapon was still there, ready to be deployed against Elysium 4. Minho looked at Jiwoo and she saw the decision forming in his eyes. No, she said. Don't even think about it. The weapon is in the laboratory. I can reach it through the maintenance tunnels. I know the way. It's suicide. The entire level is on lockdown. 12 million people, Jiwoo. I can save them. He pulled her close, kissing her hard. Get the data out. Broadcast it. Expose everything. I can't lose you again. You won't, I promise. He pressed the storage device into her hands. I'll meet you at the extraction point. He ran before she could stop him, disappearing into the smoke and chaos. Shreka grabbed Jiwoo's arm, pulling her toward the exit. We need to move now. Jiwoo wanted to chase after Minho to drag him back, but Daehyun was injured and needed medical help. The data had to get out. And Shreka was right. Staying meant dying. She ran with the team, fighting through council forces. Behind them, the building shook with more explosions. Fire alarms wailed. The headquarters was coming apart. They reached Woojin's ship as council fighters began launching. Jaeho had already accessed the building's communication systems remotely, preparing to broadcast their evidence. Where's Dr. Kang? Woojin demanded. He went for the weapon, Jiwoo said, her voice breaking. We need to wait for him. We can't wait. Council forces are mobilizing. If we don't leave now, we never will. Jiwoo stood at the ship's ramp, looking back at the burning headquarters. Somewhere in that building, Minho was fighting to reach the laboratory. Every instinct screamed at her to go back to help him, but he had given her a mission. Get the data out. Expose the council. Save Elysium-4 launch, she whispered. The ship lifted off as the headquarters collapsed behind them. Entire sections of the building fell, consumed by fire and secondary explosions. Jiwoo watched it burn, tears streaming down her face. She had broken her perfect record in every way possible. She had failed to kill her target. She had fallen in love with him. And now she had lost him. The silver bracelet on her wrist felt impossibly heavy. A promise of a future they would never have. A quiet life by the ocean that would remain just a dream. Woojin pushed the ship to maximum speed, breaking through Earth's atmosphere with council fighters in pursuit. Once they reached orbit, he activated the FTL drive. As the stars stretched into lines, Jiwoo sat alone in the cargo hold, clutching the data device Minho had died to secure. The mission wasn't over. They still had to broadcast the evidence, still had to stop the council, but the cost had been so high. Too high. She touched her bracelet one last time and whispered a promise to empty air. I'll finish this for you. For everyone. Jiwoo sat motionless in the cargo hold for hours after they escaped Earth. She didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't speak. She just stared at the data device in her hands, the evidence Minho had died to secure. Daehyun recovered from his shoulder wound with medical treatment from Shrika's team. He tried talking to Jiwoo, offering comfort. She barely heard him. The world felt distant and unreal. On the second day, Woojin approached her cautiously. We're approaching the outer colonies. We need to decide where to go next. Jiwoo didn't respond. There's something else, Woojin continued. A message came through on an encrypted channel. It's addressed to you. That got her attention. She followed him to the cockpit, where Jaeho had isolated the transmission. It was a video file recorded weeks ago. The sender was Minho, her breath caught. Woojin started the playback. Minho's face appeared on the screen, looking tired but determined. Jiwoo, if you're watching this, it means something went wrong with the mission. It means I'm probably dead. She wanted to turn it off, couldn't bear to hear his voice, but she forced herself to keep watching. I made this recording just in case, to tell you things I might not get a chance to say. First, I love you. I've loved you since Haven's Rest. I never stopped, not once in 20 years. Meeting you again was the best thing that ever happened to me, even though it came with a death sentence. Tears ran down Jiwoo's face. She couldn't remember the last time she had cried like this. Second, don't blame yourself for whatever happened. We both knew the risks. We chose to fight anyway because some things are worth dying for. Saving millions of innocent people is worth dying for. Minho leaned closer to the camera, his expression intense. Third and most important, don't come back for me. Don't waste time on rescue attempts. Finish the mission. The data we extracted contains everything you need to expose the council. Broadcast it to every communication hub in the galaxy. Make sure everyone knows what they were planning. He smiled then, sad but genuine. I told you I wanted more time with you. Years if we were lucky. We didn't get years. But the days we had were worth more than a lifetime spent apart. You showed me that it's possible to change, to choose a different path. I hope you remember that. The recording ended. Jiwoo sat in silence, her hands clenched so tight they hurt. Daehyun spoke carefully. The data is good. Jeho confirmed it. We have everything we need to prove the Council's plans. We just need to broadcast it. What about the bioweapon? Jiwoo asked, her voice rough. Minho went after it. Did he succeed? Jeho pulled up intelligence reports. Unknown. The headquarters is still burning. No official reports about what was recovered or destroyed, but there's something else. He pointed to new information scrolling across his screens. The weapon deployment schedule has been moved up. The Council is rushing it. A stealth ship left Earth yesterday heading for Elysium 4. It's carrying the bioweapon. Jiwoo stood up abruptly. How long until it reaches the planet? 48 hours at current speed. Then we intercept it. We take the weapon as physical evidence and we broadcast everything at the same time. That's insane, Woojin protested. We're not a military force. That ship will have heavy defenses. I don't care. We're stopping that ship. Jiwoo's grief was transforming into cold determination. Minho died trying to save those people. I won't let his death be meaningless. Shreka stepped forward, her scales glinting in the dim light. My commandos will fight beside you. We owe Dr. Kang that much. The plan came together quickly. Woojin would use his ship's speed to intercept the Council vessel before it reached Elysium 4. Shreka's team would board and secure the bioweapon. Jiwoo would lead the assault, using her knowledge of Council tactics. Once they had the weapon, Jeho would broadcast everything simultaneously. They caught up to the weapon ship, the Scythe, at the edge of the Elysium system. It was a military vessel armed and dangerous. But Woojin was a skilled pilot and Jeho's hacking gave them an advantage. I'm spoofing their sensors, Jeho said. They think we're a patrol ship running a routine inspection. The Scythe's captain bought it long enough for them to get close. Then Shrika's commandos launched a boarding action, breaching the hull with plasma cutters. Fierce combat erupted immediately. Jiwoo fought through the ship with mechanical precision. Every movement was efficient, lethal. She had spent 30 years perfecting this skill, and now she was using it for something that actually mattered. Council security forces tried to stop them, but Jiwoo was unstoppable. She was fighting for Minho, for Yunji, for the millions on Elysium 4. Nothing would stand in her way. They reached the secure cargo bay where the bioweapon was stored. Standing between them and the weapon was Cho Taejin, the brutal enforcer from Earth. He was enhanced with military augments, faster and stronger than normal humans. You should have died on Earth, he said, drawing weapons. I'll finish the job here. The fight was vicious. Taejin was younger, enhanced, trained to kill. But Jiwoo fought with the fury of someone who had lost everything. She took hits that should have ended the fight but kept moving, kept striking. Finally, she got inside his guard and put a bullet through his knee. As he fell, she knocked him unconscious with the butt of her gun. Weapon secured, Shreka reported, carefully extracting the bioweapon canister from its container. Jiwoo stood over the defeated enforcer, breathing hard. Then she accessed the ship's communication array. Jeho, we have the weapon. Broadcast everything now. Across the ship, Jeho synchronized every communication relay in range. The evidence flowed out. Documents proving the bioweapon program, targeting data for Elysium 4, communications between council members planning genocide, proof of Project Nightfall. It reached trillions of people across the galaxy simultaneously. News networks picked it up within minutes. Social media exploded. The council tried to shut down the broadcast, but it was too late. The truth was out. Then an incoming transmission arrived from Elysium 4, a voice that made Jiwoo's heart stop. This is Kang Minho. I'm calling from Elysium 4 Medical Center. If anyone can hear this, we need immediate assistance. He was alive. Jiwoo grabbed the communication panel. Minho? How? Long story. I made it out of the headquarters through maintenance tunnels. Got help from some sympathetic workers. Made my way here to start distributing the cure. His voice was strained, exhausted. But the council is attacking. They're trying to silence everyone before your broadcast spreads. We're coming. Hold on. Woojin pushed his ship to maximum speed, racing for Elysium 4. Behind them, the Scythe drifted, its crew subdued. They had the weapon, they had the proof, but the fight wasn't over. They reached Elysium 4 to find it under assault. Council military ships were bombarding key cities. Ground forces had landed, heading for the medical center where Minho was treating plague victims. This is Elysium 4 Defense Forces. A voice came through their comms. Identify yourselves. We're with the Refugee Coalition, Jiwoo responded. We have proof of the Council's crimes. We're here to help. Then we're glad to see you. The medical center is under heavy attack. Dr. Kang is there treating patients. He won't evacuate. Of course he wouldn't. That was who Minho was, someone who stayed to help even when death came for him. Wu Jin brought them down near the medical center. It was surrounded by council forces. Shreka's commandos deployed immediately, forming defensive positions. Wu Jin provided air support with his ship's weapons. Ji Wu fought her way through the attackers, moving like the hunter she had been. But now she was hunting those who deserved it, soldiers trying to commit genocide. She reached the medical center's entrance. Inside, Minho was treating patients even as explosions rocked the building. He looked up as she entered, and their eyes met across the room. Time seemed to stop. Then she was running to him, and he was there, solid and real and alive. They held each other as the world exploded around them. "You promised you'd meet me at extraction," Jiwoo said, half laughing, half crying. "I got delayed. Sorry about that." Outside, the battle was turning. News of the broadcast was spreading. Some council military units were refusing orders, unwilling to participate in genocide. Others fought harder, knowing they were now complicit in exposed crimes. Then help arrived. The Galactic Military Command, convinced by the evidence, sent peacekeepers to Elysium 4. They ordered council forces to stand down. Some complied. Others fought to the end, but the outcome was inevitable. By dawn, it was over. The attack had failed. The bioweapon was secured, and the truth was known across the galaxy. The following months brought sweeping changes. Council leadership faced war crimes tribunals. Yoon Hana and other conspirators received life sentences. The evidence Jiwoo and Minho provided led to the dismantling of the corrupt system and the formation of a new democratic galactic government. Minho's plague cure saved billions. He was offered countless honors but declined them all. Instead, he established the Free Medical Initiative, providing care to anyone who needed it. Jiwoo retired from hunting. She faced no charges. Her testimony was crucial in the trials, and her actions had saved countless lives. But she struggled with what she had done, the people she had killed unknowingly. Therapy helped. So did time, and so did Minho, who stayed beside her through the nightmares and guilt.